At that time, the festival of the dedication took place in Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was walking in the temple in the portico of Solomon. So the Jewish leaders gathered around him and said to him, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you do not believe because you do not belong to my sheep. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one will snatch them out of the Father's hand, out of my hand. What my Father has given me is greater than all else, and no one can snatch it out of the Father's hand. The Father and I are one." The Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. Do we have any children with us in the first service this morning? I can't resist at least showing you what I was going to show the children because it fits with our lesson today of the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd. This is a Middle Eastern Bedouin shepherd. It's actually holding a little goat, so it doesn't quite fit. But it's a wonderful picture of the Good Shepherd. And so today we talk about that theme, as I mentioned before. Today is the Sunday of the Good Shepherd, the fourth Sunday of Easter. And it seems to me that we need a good shepherd right now. This last week has been another week of tragedy and pain for us in our country and around the world, but in our country. First, the terrible bombing in Boston at the conclusion of the Boston Marathon there. Thankfully, they have caught the people that did it, have one in custody. I'm glad they do. I'm glad that they can try to find out more what's going on. So that was good, the swift work of justice. But still, there are 3 families who have lost a loved one. There are tens of other families where family members have critical injuries, and all of us feeling shocked and less at ease because of the danger that suddenly literally exploded in our midst. And then there was the accidental but still very tragic explosion in Texas, in West Texas, at the chemical plant. And once again, 14 families who have lost loved ones there. That's what's happening locally. Meanwhile, we've almost forgot the other news of the other danger spots in the world of what is going to happen in North Korea or in Iran or Afghanistan. And then I guess all of us bring today, when we think about a good shepherd, needing a good shepherd, all of us come today also with our own personal concerns, health concerns, worries about our children, concerns about our jobs. We come here today, each of us carrying a number of different concerns and worries and wounds. And it's for that reason that we need a good shepherd, someone who cares for us, someone who protects us, someone who will not abandon us until we are out of danger. And for that, the words of Jesus come to us today when he says to his disciples, and he says to us, I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. My sheep hear my voice. No one can snatch them out of my hand. I come to bring life. I come to bring eternal life, and I will never let you go. I was wondering this last week about why did they pick the fourth Sunday of Easter to celebrate Good Shepherd Sunday? Those are texts that aren't directly tied to Easter. Why do they choose the fourth Sunday? 100 years or so back, when we were picking the lessons that we would lead each Sunday, why the fourth Sunday of Easter? And I don't know this for sure, but the thought that came to my mind is that 4 weeks after Easter, we need to hear the news again. We need to hear the news again that Christ comes to bring life. Because 4 weeks after Easter, we're back in the reality of our world. We're back in a place of tragedy and death. So we need to hear again that Christ is alive and with us. That was certainly very true with the disciples. When you read the last chapters of each of the Gospels that tell the stories of what happened after Jesus was risen from the dead, the post-resurrection appearances, they're called. Very often the disciples in one moment they see Christ, they are encouraged, they are confident in him, and then Christ leaves to go somewhere else, and something happens to the disciples that shakes them up. And all of a sudden they can't even sure if they can believe it anymore. Is Christ really alive? Did his life really conquer death? Because they were back in a world of death and tragedy, and they wondered if it was true or not. So they needed Christ to come back and assure them that he was the Good Shepherd. And I would guess that's the same true for us. On Easter Sunday, we're able to celebrate with trumpets and with banners and with choirs and all of us singing together, and we get a real sense that Christ won a victory over death and evil. But then we too go back into reality, we call it. We go back into the real world, at least what seems like the real world, and have the tragedy around us. And so what do we believe in? What do we believe in the face of all this? And today, the Good Shepherd, Christ, comes to us again and says, this is what you believe in. This is the real world. Death and violence may think it's reality. Death and violence may think they're the ones in control. But this is the real world. That God, the one I call Father, God is in charge, and God's power is here to bring you life, and to bring you rescue, and to bring you care. And that's what you can trust on. That's what you can cling to. And how is it that Christ acts as Good Shepherd today? We probably not too many of us have grown up on sheep farms, so we haven't seen shepherds everywhere. But we have kind of a picture of what shepherds do. But how is Christ a good shepherd in our midst? What does he actually do? First of all, a good shepherd, when there's a crisis, when there's an emergency, the good shepherd jumps in directly and helps. And so I think we can say in our time, our days of life here, when there's an emergency, Christ sends help to us, direct help. I was really struck in the news clips of the bombing at the Boston Marathon, how quickly people responded to help. No sooner had the bombs gone off that people were actually running towards the scene of the bombs to help people there. Even though they surely knew that there might be yet more explosions, even though they perhaps could think to themselves that maybe that was a dangerous place to be. Nevertheless, they went there because people needed them. People needed help. Or I think about the news reports about the explosion in Texas. Of the 14 people that died, 10 of them were first responders. 10 of them were members of the volunteer firefighters or paramedics who were rushing in to help. Some of them were off duty. A lot of them didn't even have to be there. But they knew that people were at risk. And so they went rushing into this place of danger to the extent of giving their own lives. Christ the Good Shepherd, this is the Spirit of Christ at work. When we see these scenes of people coming to help, that's the Spirit of Christ the Good Shepherd at work. The Spirit also that's present in our midst. When we are in times of emergency, or people in times of emergency, Christ comes to help us spiritually. Christ comes with words of comfort and of concern. And so when we live that out with each other, when we comfort our friends, when we encourage our friends, that's the Spirit of the Good Shepherd working through us. Christ also comes to help people emotionally. I think of Jesus' beautiful words when he said to the disciples, "Come unto me, all you that are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Jesus comes to strengthen us emotionally. So whatever it is, the emergency that we go through, whether it's a large public emergency, or once again, whether it's the very painful times in our lives when we're waiting for a doctor's report back,